Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine finding this thin gold strip, right, buried with someone way back in ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And it's got these words on it. I am a son of earth and starry heaven. I am thirsty. Please give me something to drink from the fountain of memory. Just, wow.
It really is. And it's not just some random poetic line,
No.
No, it's like a key, a kind of password almost that opens up a whole world of ancient beliefs, mystery traditions, spiritual quests.
Right. It feels really significant.
It is. It's a thread we can follow, connecting different times, different esoteric groups.
Exactly. And that's what this deep dive is all about for you listening. Maybe you've heard this phrase. Maybe you're just curious about, well, ancient mysteries or how spiritual ideas travel through history.
Or why memory of all things was considered so vital for the soul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why that specific word? So we're going to use the source material you shared with us to really get into the layers of meaning here.
Trace its roots, see how it pops up later.
See how this idea influenced different paths across, well, centuries. What does this ancient thirst for memory actually mean? And why was it so important? Let's dive in.
Okay, so the phrase itself, let's break it down. I am a son of earth and starry heaven. What's that telling us straight away?
Well, it screams duality, doesn't it? There's the connection to, the physical world, earth, grounded.
But then also something bigger,
Mm.
cosmic, the divine, maybe, starry heaven.
Exactly. It's saying, I belong to both realms. I'm not just matter. I have this higher, perhaps heavenly origin, too.
Makes sense. It establishes the speaker's nature.
Then you get, I am thirsty. So simple, but powerful.
Yeah. And obviously not thirsty for, like, a drink of water after exercise.
No. Definitely not literal thirst in this context.
So what kind? What's the thirst for?
It's a spiritual yearning, right? A deep need. The soul is missing something crucial.
Okay.
And the phrase tells us exactly what it needs. Please give me something to drink from the fountain of memory. The fountain of memory. So this is where that specific ancient idea of memory has to be different from how we think of it today, right?
Absolutely. We think memory is, recalling facts, what you had for breakfast.
Right. Remembering stuff.
But this fountain, it's directly tied to Nemesis, the Greek goddess.
Ah, Nemesis, goddess of memory and mother of the muses, wasn't she?
That's the one. And in these traditions, her kind of memory wasn't about remembering shopping lists. It was the absolute opposite of oblivion, of forgetting.
Forgetting, like losing something essential.
Exactly. Forgetting was seen as, well, catastrophic for the soul. It meant losing divine knowledge, the insight needed for the soul's journey, maybe its return to where it came from.
So it's the total opposite of Lethe, the river of forgetfulness in the underworld.
Precisely. You actively wanted to avoid Lethe. You needed to find Nemesine's spring, her fountain. That was the goal.
Because holding on to, or maybe regaining, that core divine knowledge was the key. The key to staying conscious, maybe, after death.
That seems to be the idea. Spiritual survival, clarity.
And the sources you provided, they actually show us where this phrase turns up, don't they? It's not just theoretical.
Oh, not at all. Its roots are deep in the Greek mystery traditions. Specifically, Orphism is mentioned and related Bacchic rites.
Orphism, linked to Orpheus, the mythical musician.
That's the traditional association, yeah.
Mm.
And Orphism was all about purification, the soul's big journey, what happens after death.
And the goal was keeping hold of that divine knowledge.
That was central. Retaining it, the Bacchic stuff is sort of woven into that same religious world.
And you said it was used in rituals. It wasn't just philosophy.
Definitely part of the practice. And the most amazing evidence pointed out in our sources is these gold tablets.
Gold tablets. Tell me more about those.
Okay, so these are thin strips of gold foil, really thin.
Wow.
And they date back pretty far, like the 4th century BCE. They've been found buried with people, initiates of these mysteries.
Buried with them?
Yeah. Think of them as like a little instruction manual for the soul. Or a map, maybe, for navigating the underworld. Seriously. A cheat sheet for the afterlife.
Kind of. And the phrase we're talking about, I am a son of earth and starry heaven, the whole thing, it was right there, inscribed on the tablet.
No way.
Yes. It was a direct command or maybe a plea for the soul, telling it exactly what to say, what to look for, which fountain to drink from.
To avoid Lethe, avoid oblivion.
And choose memory, choose divine consciousness.
Yeah, is incredible. A literal set of instructions buried with you. Okay, soul, here's the plan.
It really shows how absolutely fundamental this idea was to their view of death and what comes next.
And it wasn't just about death rituals, was it? This memory forgetfulness thing.
No, the sources also mention other contexts, like healing sanctuaries, oracles. The Oracle of Trophonios at Lebedea is a key example.
Trophonios. What happened there?
Well, the rituals there apparently involved encountering both forces, lethe, forgetfulness, and mnemosyne, memory.
Both. Why both? Well, it suggests a process of transformation. Maybe drinking from lethe helped you forget earthly worries, or maybe past traumas, past lives even, sort of wiping the slate clean for a spiritual rebirth.
Okay, like a reset.
Possibly. But drinking from mnemosyne, from memory, that was essential for gaining the real insight, the deep understanding, the revelation you were seeking from the oracle.
So this memory wasn't just recall. It was about accessing a higher truth. Enlightenment.
Exactly. It underscores that mnemosyne offered a specific kind of insightful memory, not just remembering mundane facts. It was memory linked to sacred knowledge.
Okay, so we have this powerful idea, this specific request for divine memory, starting in ancient Greece, tied to death, oracles, transformation. How does it keep going? How does it influence things centuries later?
Right, because these ideas, they didn't just vanish when those specific rituals faded. The core concept that a special kind of knowledge, framed as memory, is vital for the soul it flowed onwards.
Like underground streams surfacing later?
Kind of, yeah. And one major place it surfaces is Hermeticism.
Hermeticism. Okay, that's later.
Much later. We're talking around the 2nd century CE. Texts attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, this sort of mythical sage figure.
And what was the focus there?
The big focus was on achieving gnosis.
Gnosis, meaning?
Direct, personal, mystical knowledge. The goal was basically uniting your individual soul with the cosmos, with the divine order. A kind of direct knowing.
Okay, I think I see the connection. The Orphics wanted divine knowledge via memory. And Hermeticism seeks this gnosis, this deep understanding. How does memory fit into Hermetic gnosis specifically?
Well, that's the really interesting parallel. While they might not use the exact phrase fountain of memory, the process of achieving gnosis in Hermetic texts is often described less like learning something brand new.
And more like?
More like remembering something you'd forgotten.
Yeah.
Like remembering your original divine state, or the true nature of reality, or your own divine origins.
Ah, so it's a recovery, a recollection of lost truth.
Precisely. It often feels like accessing something primordial, something inherent that's just been buried or obscured by the material world. You're uncovering a lost connection, remembering who you really are.
So the mechanism is different, maybe more internal, meditative, philosophical, but the goal is still accessing fundamental truth framed as remembering it.
Exactly. The search for gnosis becomes the Hermetic version of seeking that divine memory. The form changes, but the essence feels very similar.
Okay, then let's jump forward again, quite a leap this time, to the 17th century, Rosicrucianism.
Yes. And the Rosicrucians, they were very explicit about their roots. They claimed lineage from what they called a primordial tradition.
A tradition that included
Ancient mysteries like the Orphic and Eleusinian rites we mentioned, but also Hermeticism, alchemy, Christian mysticism. It was a blend.
and figures like Michael Mayer, their manifestos, they emphasize these connections.
Oh, absolutely. They deliberately position themselves as heirs to this ancient wisdom tradition.
So how did that quest for, let's call it divine memory or knowledge, show up in Rosicrucianism? What did it look like for them?
Well, their whole focus was on spiritual transformation. They used, complex symbolism, secret rituals, allegorical texts. A lot of it drew heavily on Hermetic and alchemical ideas.
Aiming for.
Illumination, unveiling hidden wisdom, achieving a higher state of being. And while they might not have literally invoked the fountain of memory in, say, a ceremony, the underlying drive was absolutely there. This quest for profound, transformative wisdom, often framed as recovering lost knowledge or understanding a kind of universal symbolic language. It's a clear continuation.
It's still about accessing that deeper truth, that non-ordinary insight.
Yes, the same fundamental impulse seen in the Orphic plea, just manifesting through their particular blend of mysticism and symbolism.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. If you had to boil it down, what's the main thread connecting the gold tablets, Hermetic gnosis, and Rosicrucian aims?
I think the core thing, the takeaway from the sources, is this, across all these different times and contexts. Ancient Greece, Roman Egypt, 17th century Europe, there's this persistent human drive
A drive
for
for
spiritual transformation. And crucially, achieving it not just by learning new facts, but by accessing, or maybe better, recovering a special kind of knowledge.
a knowledge that feels like a memory.
Exactly, like remembering something fundamental, something divine that's been forgotten.
So let's recap quickly based on the sources. Orphics. It's a literal plea on a gold tablet. For the soul after death, get to the memory fountain.
Right, very practical instruction for the afterlife. Avoid oblivion.
Hermeticists. It's more philosophical, internal. Seeking gnosis, which feels like remembering your divine connection.
A meditative path to realizing inherent truth, you could say, from around the 2nd century CE onwards.
And the Rosicrucians, emerging in the 17th century, they draw on all this, seeking transformation through mysticism, symbolism, secret knowledge, claiming links back to these ancient rites.
Yeah, pursuing that same kind of transformative insight, seeing themselves as part of this long tradition of recovering primordial wisdom.
So that phrase, I am a son of earth and starry heaven. I am thirsty. Please give me something to drink from the fountain of memory. It's really more than just an old inscription.
Much more. It's become a powerful symbol, hasn't it? Encapsulating this enduring human quest described across these sources.
A quest to find deeper insight, to remember something vital that feels lost.
Yes, in order to transform. It really ties together these seemingly separate threads of esoteric thought.
It shows how an idea born in, well, ancient death rituals could echo and evolve, but still resonate centuries later, still pointing towards that need for profound knowledge linked to memory, to not forgetting who we are at the deepest level.
Absolutely.
And maybe the most interesting question to leave you, the listener, with, drawing from all this source material is, well, think about this. What does it really mean that this specific plea, a plea for memory originating in rites about death and avoiding oblivion, what does it mean that this resonated so strongly, that it echoed through millennia of spiritual seeking, becoming this timeless symbol? It suggests, doesn't it, that the forgetting they feared wasn't just about, past events.
Right.
Maybe it was about losing touch with something truly essential, something eternal about ourselves, and maybe about the universe itself.
Yeah.
Something we constantly feel the need to remember.